If you enjoy what you hear here today, please consider supporting me on my Patreon page. Every dollar helps, and you get to see content that you won't see here. Queen Chrysalis Snuggles Everything by Skajarma and Tom117Z. Chrysalis hates Snuggles. I mean, really, she absolutely despises them. Not only were they a fabrication of lesser species who hoard their love rather than giving it all to her for food, but it also reminded her far too much of the insufferable crown-stealing fuckwit that is Thorax. Now I want you to remember this opening tirade because it's going to be important in a little bit. For now though, we join ex-Queen Chrysalis somewhere in the wilderness, sitting under the overhang of a rocky outcropping with a distinctly unamused scowl on her face. She looked up at the sky and cringed when another blast of thunder sounded, and a bright flash of lightning flickered over the sky. A harsh gust blew by, causing the rain that was falling from the heavens to flow sideways and pummel her face for a second.
I hate rain. Why can't everywhere be a desert? It never rains in the desert,
she muttered bitterly before scooting back a bit further under the overhang. As she did so, she noticed movement to her left. Looking that way, she spotted an absolutely adorable and fluffy bunny bouncing out of the bushes to share her cover from the rain. She eyed it curiously when it came to a stop next to her and promptly used her flank as a pillow, cuddling up to her for warmth.
I hate you,
Chrysalis deadpanned.
I bet you have a dumb name, like Kevin or something. Pfft, stupid fluffball.
The bunny didn't seem to understand her, squeaked contently from the warmth of her almost posterior, and cuddled up even closer. It even started nuzzling into her. Chrysalis narrowed her eyes.
You do realize that you are dangerously close to my butt, right?
The bunny merely squeaked.
Fair enough.
Chrysalis then plucked the bunny off of her butt with magic and floated it up to hover before her eyes.
But I've had about enough of cute things. Thank you for volunteering to be a snack, little fluffy shitbag.
The bunny squeaked in fear. A glow began to make its way up Chrysalis's throat until it coalesced in her mouth, the putrid magic beginning to reach out towards the increasingly alarmed bunny. Oh, Chrysalis could already taste the love energy, as meager as it would be, and the meat of the carcass that she would eat after it was dead. It was going to be... Why was she wearing a muzzle? Chrysalis tried saying something that was probably akin to "what the fuck" as she dropped the bunny in surprise, her words coming out as a muffled noise more than anything else. She gripped the muzzle with her hooves and then her magic to try and pry it off, but no matter how hard she tugged and yanked, the accursed thing would not budge.
Come now, your bugginess. We can't have you harming the little ones.
A cocky voice said from beside Chrysalis, and she turned her gaze to the spirit of chaos just lounging in the rain beneath an umbrella.
I saved you a lot of trouble just now, really. Fluttershy would have hunted you down. Ugh, that mare has a hidden mean side.
Chrysalis gave Discord a snarl that was highly obstructed by the muzzle, only increasing her indignation. Discord just rolled his eyes.
Oh, calm yourself, Chrissy. I'll take the muzzle off in due time. But for now, just take a load off.
Suddenly, there was a bright flash, and they weren't in the cave anymore. Rather, they were now on a bright and sunny beach on an absolutely gorgeous day. Chrysalis was equally shocked to find herself in a lounge chair, Discord on another to her right, while another chair to her left held... Wait, was that the bunny, Kevin? Wearing sunglasses? Being served drinks by several copies of Discord and Hula outfits? Ugh, forget Snuggles. Chrysalis hated everything.
See, isn't this better?
Discord asked with a languid stretch on his chair.
Oh, the sun, the breeze, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore.
He sat up and lowered a pair of sunglasses that he too was wearing and whistled as a few other Discords sauntered by, giving him saucy looks.
The gorgeous locals.
Chrysalis really hated everything. Discord looked at Chrysalis hopefully, then frowned.
Really? Not even a smile?
Chrysalis growled.
I suppose these locals may be a bit too exotic for you. Maybe you need something closer to home?
Discord mused before snapping his fingers. Just a few feet in front of Chrysalis, a big heart-shaped bed with red sheets and peppered with rose petals appeared, complete with a very confused-looking thorax lying prone on it.
This better?
Discord asked.
What the?
Thorax sputtered, looking around, completely baffled. Chrysalis was going to kill everything.
Oh, perhaps not.
Discord decided, and with another flash, Thorax was gone.
So, got anything to say?
Chrysalis tried to murder him with her gaze alone before pointing to the muzzle on her muzzle.
Oh, right.
A flash, and it was gone.
You fucking piece of...
And it was back.
Oh, please, Chrissy, throw me a bone here,
Discord said,
throwing a femur over his shoulder and into a nuclear detonation. I will remove the muzzle if you keep this relatively PG.
Chrysalis grumbled, but then hesitantly nodded. Not like she had much of a choice. Another flash, and freedom once more.
Ah! What is this game of yours, trickster?
Chrysalis demanded, holding in her vulgarity. For now.
Whatever it is not amusing.
That's a matter of opinion, Discord rebuffed. I'm sure our audience must be enjoying this.
Audience?
She deadpanned.
What? Your copies?
Oh no, they're for Kevin and I's enjoyment,
Discord replied, looking toward some of the copies as they winked back at him.
Since I could only love myself as such.
Then what's that one doing here?
Chrysalis asked, pointing over at a familiar yellow Pegasus with a pink mane and a skimpy— Whoops! Discord suddenly shouted, clicking his talons and making the facade vanish.
Let's forget you ever saw that and move on to the real problem here, yeah?
Chrysalis, definitely filing that information under blackmail material, pretended to comply and gave him a questioning look.
You see, Bug Queen, some of my fellows of the multiverse have had a whale of a time messing with you Chrysalises as of late, and I really need to give it a go for myself, he announced. And now that someday has at last come, I figured now's as good a time as any to give it a whirl.
What does Saturday have to do with...
Chrysalis began to question, but her voice turned into a long and dumb-sounding drone when Discord poked her atop the head with his talon. Her eyes became a swirl of mismatched colors, while the rest of the color was drained from her body. Well, what little color there was, anyway. When Discord retracted his talon, he smirked at the now black and white Chrysalis expectantly. Chrysalis looked at him, blinked, and then looked at Kevin, the bunny, who was looking very confused by two mini Discords lathering him up with oil. Chrysalis watched for a second. Then two. She then beamed enormously.
It's so cute!
She shrieked before reaching over and yanking Kevin into a hug against her chest.
It's so small and fluffy, and it shall be my Fluffy!
The bunny was momentarily dazed by the sudden and seemingly random change in attitude, but then gave a happy squeal of joy as it returned the Snuggles with gusto. Remember what I said earlier about her hating Snuggles? Yeah, now you see the relevance.
Marvelous,
Discord cooed with delight, a certain spark in his eye.
Now I just need to put you somewhere where you can cause all kinds of fun.
He rubbed his chin, doing his best to contain his laughter as Chrysalis mercilessly peppered Kevin in smooches, then snapped his fingers as the light bulb appeared over his head.
I've got it! Chrissy, Kevin, hold on to your butts!
He then snapped his fingers again, and they vanished from the beach in a flash of light. Twilight Sparkle jumped in her seat when she heard a loud knocking on the front door of the castle. She glanced up from the very important princess duty paperwork she had been staring at and mindlessly signing, eager for a break in the monotony. She slipped out of her seat and went for the source of the knocking, which was still going without cease.
Okay, I'm coming,
she shouted once the door was in sight. The knocking abruptly ceased. Now a little miffed by how annoying that had gotten, Twilight pulled open the door with her magic. She paused when she saw a black and white Queen Chrysalis grinning at her.
Oh my gosh, you are so purple and smart!
Chrysalis squealed before reaching out and yanking Twilight into a hug.
Blah, what?
Was all Twilight could think of in response to, this. And her mind began to dull when she felt Chrysalis repeatedly smooching her on top of the head. For a few seconds this went on, with Twilight's mind trying to reboot at least 5 times and blue screening each time. There was just no way to process any of this. Finally, Chrysalis leaned back and began playing with Twilight's cheeks with her hooves.
I wish I had fingers so I could pinch these.
Twilight's face began to go from shock to deadpan.
Why are you here?
She asked flatly.
To hug you!
Chrysalis shrieked out before pulling Twilight in for another bone-crushing hug. Then came a gasp of surprise from behind Twilight. Were she not being forced to look at Chrysalis's excitedly buzzing wings, she would have looked back. But for now, she simply sighed.
Spike, trust me, I did not consent to this.
Chrysalis gasped.
Whoa! Isn't that baby dragon just the most adorable?
Stranger danger! Spike loudly declared while slamming the door shut and then locking it. Chrysalis dropped Twilight and then shot through the slammed door, knocking it off its hinges without any issue. Twilight fell flat onto her face as Chrysalis left, but her ears heard Spike's despairing wails. No! Bad touch! Twilight! Twilight pulled her face out of the dirt.
It's Saturday, isn't it?
She asked in a daze before her face thumped back into the dirt again, Spike's harrowing cries lost on her. Thankfully, Kevin the bunny was there to comfort her by giving her mane a few pets. Twilight had eventually been able to pry Chrysalis from her now thoroughly violated dragon assistant, hoping that she would at least be able to sit the mad changeling down and figure out what in Celestia's big sunny ass was wrong with her. That had been the intention, anyway. Hell, Twilight might have made it into a research project. But the moment Twilight had gotten her into the library through brute force and had turned her back to get some equipment, Chrysalis wasn't in the library anymore. Twilight was panicking. She unfurled her wings and jumped into action, rushing from the castle and taking to the skies to get a good view of the surrounding landscape and town. She peered down into Ponyville, seeing no signs of Chrysalis anywhere. So she turned her gaze to the sky, and soon caught sight of Rainbow Dash napping soundly on a cloud.
Hey, Rainbow!
Twilight shouted, rushing towards her friend. Have you seen? A black missile shot through said cloud, and Rainbow Dash screamed as the white fluffy object evaporated. Twilight gasped, shooting faster towards the scene
Your mane is so colorful and full of rainbows!
Chrysalis squealed gleefully. She held onto a very deadpan-looking Rainbow Dash.
I bet it tastes like Smiles.
How would you even know what Smiles taste like? Rainbow asked, not entirely aware of what was even happening and just rolling with it. Chrysalis pulled Rainbow around so they were eye to eye.
I kiss a lot of Smiles in my line of work.
The bug explained before licking her lips and kissing Rainbow on the mane. She pulled back with her muzzle scrunched up.
Ugh. Nope. Tastes like hair.
Shocker. Rainbow deadpanned before rolling her eyes. Okay, Princess Luna, real funny. I can wake up now, right? Twilight flew up to Rainbow's side with a look of utmost sympathy.
Dash, this isn't a dream.
Rainbow blinked.
It's not?
A surprisingly chill-looking bunny unburied itself from Chrysalis's mane, and the bunny, Kevin, gave her a nod of confirmation. Rainbow blinked.
Oh. Oh no!
She shrieked and began squirming in Chrysalis's snuggle, trying to get loose.
No, 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 I don't wanna!
Chrysalis rubbed her cheek against Rainbow's.
It's okay, little pony. I got you.
Help me! Rainbow screamed to the heavens. Luckily, Chrysalis then looked past Rainbow and into town.
Oh, it's Fluttershy! Her mane is so long!
She squeaked, let Rainbow go, and shot down into town. Rainbow just kind of lazily spun in the air for a moment, not really sure what to make of this. She looked at Twilight with a loopy look.
Hey, I know you said that this isn't a dream, but, I'm gonna just pretend it is and take a nap over here, okay?
Twilight sighed.
I could use your help catching her, but I understand.
Rainbow nodded shakily, found a cloud and curled up on it, shaking slightly. Twilight was pretty sure she was muttering quietly to herself, and decided that she would sign Rainbow Dash up for therapy later. For now, though, she had a hug-happy bug to catch. The moment Fluttershy had caught sight of Chrysalis bearing down upon her, fangs bared, she had given a shriek of fright. Now, yes, Fluttershy had become far braver over the years, but there were still some things that still made her wet herself and flee all the way back to her house at speeds you normally wouldn't associate with the mare, or with reality. Unfortunately, Chrysalis was as persistent as she was when she was her normal evil self, and she had pursued the mare all the way to her cottage on the edge of the Everfree Forest. Twilight just hoped she wasn't too late to stop Fluttershy's inevitable trauma. She could see the small house in the distance, and she put her wings to their limits to get there quickly. Deciding that that wasn't enough, she let up her horn and teleported the final length of the journey, appearing suddenly on the doorstep and sending some of the outside animals scurrying in fright.
Whew, don't worry, Fluttershy!
Twilight shouted as she turned around and channeled her earth pony magic into her back hooves, bucking as hard as she could into the door and knocking it open. She jumped into the house, horn alight and ready to... Oh. Fluttershy gave a little giggle of glee as she and Chrysalis shared a cuddle on the couch, both seeming like they were having the time of their lives.
We're not,
Twilight grumbled to herself, dropping with a frown on her face.
Oh, hello, Twilight,
Fluttershy greeted as she spotted her friend entering, gently disengaging from the cuddle. And... was that Kevin and Angel who just bounced by in the other room? What were they doing?
My, have you seen what's happened? Sadly, yes,
Twilight deadpanned.
She hasn't hurt you, has she?
Fluttershy gasped.
Oh no, Chrysalis has been perfectly wonderful. She wanted a cuddle so bad that I had to help the poor dear. And her pet bunny, Kevin, has been getting along wonderfully with Angel.
The bunnies in particular growled at each other and circled one another on the kitchen table in the other room, before Angel struck first and tackled Kevin off the surface of the table and onto the floor, where they rolled out of sight in deep combat. Twilight had no comment.
Oh, And Chrysalis has taught me a wonderful new blend of tea.
Fluttershy added, picking up a nearby cup. In demonstration, she filled the cup with water, a tea bag, and then allowed the changeling to drip some kind of fluid into it from her fang.
What?
A pinch of venom, not enough to be dangerous.
Chrysalis assured.
It has the most wonderful tang.
Fluttershy giggled.
It does, doesn't it? She also said it has love in it.
For my love and cuddles are for all,
Chrysalis announced. Then Chrysalis and Fluttershy resumed their cuddles, careful not to spill their tea. Twilight just stood there, not knowing what to think, as Angel and Kevin jumped up onto the kitchen counter, each one holding a kitchen knife and beginning an epic duel of the fates.
How? Chrysalis has been here for maybe 2 minutes. How did you do all of this so fast?
She questioned, slapping a 4F to her forehead. Chrysalis giggled wonderfully.
Love makes anything possible.
Twilight's gaze flattened.
Even you being nice, apparently. I buy it.
Chrysalis grinned and outstretched a hoof towards her.
Oh, it isn't for sale. It's free. No buying necessary. Come here.
Twilight took a step back. She put on a sheepish grin.
Sure, but can we not do it here? I don't want to,
She looked at Fluttershy.
impose on Fluttershy's space, so, if you could just follow me back to the castle.
Chrysalis gave Fluttershy another squeeze, then hopped off of the couch.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
She beamed before smiling at Fluttershy.
We can snuggle again later, right?
Of course.
Fluttershy nodded with a smile. With that cemented, Chrysalis turned to the kitchen.
Kevin, come!
The little brown bunny came scampering, desperately fending off Angel Bunny before bouncing up into Chrysalis's mane. Angel wisely decided to halt his pursuit and simply growled in a delightfully high-pitched voice. With all of that done, Twilight backed out of the door and began to guide Chrysalis back to the castle, careful not to let the changeling queen out of her sight this time. Of course, Chrysalis spotted Applejack on the way back into town. And, of course, she sprinted to hug the newly identified Snuggable. Twilight could only watch in abject horror as Chrysalis hauled Applejack away from her wagon full of apples and squeezed her tight up against her chest.
Ooh, your legs are so orange and strong, I just want to hold them!
Chrysalis cried out in joy. Applejack struggled in the titanically firm grip of the queen, then glared at Twilight.
What have you done? It wasn't me.
Twilight replied before poking Chrysalis on the shoulder.
And we were going to my castle, Chrysalis, remember?
Chrysalis whined pitifully.
But she's so soft. The fur. It's so floof.
Applejack snorted.
Me? Soft? I think Pinkie Pie would be softer. Applejack, no!
Twilight tried to silence her, but the name had been said. Chrysalis gasped.
Pinkie Pie! I forgot about her!
She shrieked before dropping Applejack and sprinting off back into town, looking for the pink mare in question. Twilight wasted no time in chasing after her, sparing a very apologetic smile at Applejack as she went. Applejack blinked. She then tossed her forelegs into the air in exasperation and went back to her wagon. Twilight kept up her pursuit, not letting Chrysalis get too far ahead as she shot through town and startled many of the residents. They were getting closer to Sugar Cube Corner. Then who knows what would happen once Pinkie Pie entered the mix. They were almost at the business when all of Ponyville was disturbed by a sudden, ear-deafening squeal.
Marshmallow Pony!
Oh, poor Rarity. Twilight came to a sudden landing as the fashionista gave a shout of fear, being scooped up into an echo-shattering hug quicker than she could process or whine about. Twilight just groaned as she trotted towards the pair, Chrysalis having the time of her life as a crowd began to gather to watch the spectacle. This was Ponyville, after all.
This is the worst possible thing!
Rarity cried as she was shaken about like a doll, her mane becoming more and more frazzled by the second.
Chrysalis, please!
Twilight spoke up, getting the changeling's attention.
Stop!
Chrysalis froze, blinking at Twilight as Kevin popped back up from her mane and mirrored her actions. Chrysalis looked between the sobbing Rarity and Twilight, then back to Rarity, and then back to Twilight. All the while, Kevin kept in time with his new best friend.
But hugs,
Chrysalis said with a pout.
Put the nice pony down! Now!
Twilight scolded.
She clearly doesn't like it!
Chrysalis whined sadly as she released Rarity, who wobbled on her hooves as she did her best to compose herself and fix her ruined mane and makeup.
And about time, too, before I got cross, you ruffian!
Rarity huffed, stepping away from the mare.
Honestly, some creatures have no decorum.
Chrysalis gave another whine, sinking down slightly. Twilight sighed.
Okay, I'm sorry I shouted. But she wasn't enjoying that. If you want cuddles, the other pony needs to want them too.
Chrysalis perked up, and Twilight suddenly realized her mistake.
Who wants all of the cuddles?
Chrysalis announced, Kevin raising his paws and squeaking in addition.
Me!
A pink blur proclaimed as it barreled into Chrysalis. The changeling found herself on the ground with a widely grinning Pinkie Pie standing on her stomach. Kevin, meanwhile, bounced off Chrysalis's head and landed on a blank-looking alligator.
Where's Boulder when you need him?
Gummy asked dejectedly.
Who?
Kevin asked in response. Gummy licked his eye in amusement and nostalgia.
Fuzzy friend, let me tell you a tale.
While those two went over a recounting of the one with Gummy and Boulder, Chrysalis sat up and eagerly returned the snuggle to Pinkie Pie, the two humming in joy from the close proximity and fuzzy feel-goods.
Applejack was right. You are soft.
The bug cooed.
Applejack turned into Gak?
Pinkie questioned with an excited grin.
About time. Huh?
Twilight asked, flummoxed. Pinkie dismissed her with a wave.
Oh, don't you worry about it.
So soft.
Chrysalis cooed again, nuzzling into Pinkie's mane.
It smells like cotton candy.
She then kissed Pinkie's mane and licked her lips.
Tastes like it too.
She then took a bite out of Pinkie's mane. Crystal's eyes lit up with joy.
It is cotton candy!
What?
Pinkie Pie squawked in alarm when she realized there was now a piece missing from her mane.
Chrysalis! That wasn't very nice.
Twilight sat down on her haunches and looked at her hooves in bewilderment, formulas and mathematical equations dancing in front of her eyes as she tried and failed to process this new piece of information.
I'm sorry.
Chrysalis whined, licking Pinkie's mane again.
It's just so sugary.
I know, but still. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get it to grow back? I have to import the seeds for Pony's sake.
Twilight's brain blue-screened again. Chrysalis pouted an apology, then glanced past Pinkie and spotted a cannon.
Ooh, what's that?
Pinkie looked over and wore an enormous grin at the sight of her party cannon.
Oh, It's nothing special. It's just my party cannon. May I use it?
Chrysalis asked, then putting on puppy eyes. Pinkie smirked devilishly and pulled a safety helmet out of her mane.
Put this on, my little bug butt.
Twilight rebooted at about this point.
Wait, what?
After Chrysalis had ever so gracefully flung herself to the castle via party cannon and retrieving Kevin along the way, Twilight had struggled to catch up with the erratic changeling queen. Just what was going on with her? Why was she acting so, like, not herself? What was with the hugs and the being nice and the desaturated colors and... Wait.
Oh, you bastard.
Twilight growled as she flew into her castle, following an inexplicable trail of destruction that the snuggle bug had left in her wake. Twilight kept on moving, looking frantically for Chrysalis to contain and explain to her what exactly was going on. And honestly, she preferred the normal Chrysalis to this chaos. She could just hear Discord's laughter ringing in her ears. Well, she did eventually find her quarry, but unfortunately, the quarry was not ready to come quietly. In fact, Chrysalis bounced down one of the castle's crystalline hallways like she was a Pinkie Pie, gleefully giggling all the way as Twilight begged her to stop. And then Chrysalis did stop, unexpectedly, with Twilight bouncing face first off of her hind end. As Twilight groaned, getting up off the floor with a new bump to go with her horn, she saw what had stopped Chrysalis. At the end of the hall were 3 wide-eyed ponies, with the one in the center seemingly having developed a twitch in one of her eyes.
Starlight!
Chrysalis greeted said middle mare like she was her oldest friend.
I've been looking for you, silly filly.
She said smartly as Chrysalis bounded up to the former cult leader and glomped her for all she was worth. Starlight just went fishing for any suitable response as Chrysalis eventually released her and examined the other 2 gobsmacked ponies.
And you two are...
Sunburst?
The stallion said sheepishly.
The great and not at all terrified of you, Trixie.
The other one responded.
We've met.
Chrysalis tilted her head.
Huh. You must have not been very memorable then.
Trixie's terror was suddenly forgotten.
Me? Not memorable? Why, I would have you...
And then all 3 of them were taken into another giant hug by the love bug, each giving muffled protests as she squeaked loudly. All the while, Twilight was just rebooting for the millionth time today. Finally, Chrysalis dropped them. Trixie and Sunburst landed on their hooves, but since Starlight had gotten crushed in the most in the middle, she slumped down to the floor.
What the hey?
Starlight muttered from down there.
Are you okay?
Sunburst quickly asked, helping the mare up. Chrysalis felt a small flare from the 2 and looked between them with interest.
Oh, I see. You two should make out.
All the ponies did a double take at that, looking at the changeling queen like she had grown a second head. Chrysalis poked herself a couple times, just making sure she hadn't turned into a chimera or something.
Starlight? And Sunburst?
Don't be ridiculous.
Trixie protested with a stomp of her hoof. Chrysalis looked between all 3 of them.
Oh, I double see. Make it a threesome, can I watch?
Right then! Twilight suddenly interrupted, latching onto Chrysalis's tail with her magic and dragging her away, the bunny just enjoying the ride from Chrysalis's mane.
Throne room, now!
Chrysalis feebly scratched the floor with her hooves as she was dragged away, the 3 ponies just watching as they went. Starlight in particular was perplexed at what had gotten into the mare who had vowed inconceivable vengeance upon her, Unless this was yet another redemption the Princess of Friendship had wrought onto the world.
Trixie is down for the threesome.
Twilight had dragged Chrysalis all the way back to the throne room, blocking out the mare's whining all the way. When she had finally arrived, she had thrown the changeling onto the floor, slammed the door shut, and turned to confront her at long last.
All right, I think I have it figured out,
Twilight announced as she slammed her hooves onto the cutie map, and Chrysalis couldn't help but whimper as the image of her hive was crushed.
The opposite personality, the grayscale chitin. You have...
Twilight, you'll never guess what happened to me today.
Thorax announced as he barged into the throne room, a panicked look on his face as he skidded to a halt with a single rose petal still stuck on one of his horns.
Discord, Chrysalis, they...
He froze, looking directly at a smiling Chrysalis. He then locked up and fell to one side, playing dead. For some reason, there was the sound of a goat going... Kevin jumped off of Chrysalis, hopping over to the other changeling and giving him an experimental poke. On getting no response, he simply shrugged and went back to Chrysalis. Twilight stared at Thorax a few moments more, before dismissing him and returning her attention back to the situation at Huff.
Anyway, you've been discorded, Chrysalis.
A voice spoke up from the roof.
Oh, I see my grand master plan has been discovered at last.
Twilight glared up and, sure enough, the spirit of chaos himself was casually lounging on one of the roots of the Golden Oaks library hanging from the roof.
Discord, just... why?
She demanded, stomping a hoof again.
Well, it's Saturday, my dear. What were you expecting?
Discord replied with a grin. Twilight deflated.
Yeah, that makes sense,
she muttered in resignation. She then straightened her posture.
Well, can you put her back now? I think I like her better when she's an asshole.
Chrysalis pouted and reached out to Twilight gingerly.
But hugs,
she whimpered. Twilight jabbed her horn in Chrysalis's direction.
This is just creepy, in all the wrong ways.
Discord shrugged his shoulders.
Oh, fair enough. I suppose it has begun to wear out its novelty. All right.
He stood up and stretched his back, a few loud pops sounding.
Ah, very well. Hold on to your bunny, Chrysalis. We're done here,
he proclaimed, and then snapped his fingers. In a flash, Discord, Chrysalis, and Kevin all vanished from the room. Chrysalis landed on her rump, hard. Her chitin had turned to its normal dark coloration, and the green had returned to her torso and mane, as well as her wings. Likewise, Kevin had landed next to her with a squeak, shaking his head to banish the dizziness. On a quick examination, they were back where they started, although the rain had stopped, so that was a plus. Chrysalis was silent, just staring off into the dimming sunlight with a snarl etched onto her face. You could almost see the rage bubbling over, ready to explode at any moment. Kevin, bravely, hopped over to his friend and gave her a tap on the leg, looking up at her with worry.
Fuckwits,
Chrysalis growled.
All of them. Gah, stupid, hateable cretins! How dare they turn me into that? A cuddle bug? I've never been more humiliated in my life!
Kevin just listened, patting her leg comfortingly.
That trickster! He made a mockery of me!
Chrysalis raged.
Made me be nice! Oh, Kevin, I will have all of their heads on a platter. I will extract their love until they are skeletal carcasses, and then roast what is left and feast!
Chrysalis finished her rant by shooting a bolt of magic at a nearby tree, causing it to go up in flames. She panted, her venting completed, and Kevin just stood in complete silence, continuing to pat that leg in understanding. Chrysalis huffed, turning around and looking down at the small bunny. She tilted her head, examining the creature curiously. He just returned the look, giving a happy squeak as if to say, "Is that better?"
Right. Well. Come on, Kevin.
Chrysalis said as she gave the bunny a small snuggle and then let him hop up and bury himself back into her mane. She counted the list. The bearers, the princesses, Shining Armor, Thorax, Starlight, Discord. All the vengeance she would have.
We have much work to do.
And so, Kevin and Chrysalis went, walking off into the sunset.